Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. As an academic policy researcher, and honestly as a designer who spends way too much time staring at systems architecture and UI/UX in Figma, I can't help but look at our governance structures like a giant operating system. And today we're debugging. We're going to analyze a critical, literally system-threatening bug in Nigeria's political framework. People call it party defection, or cross-carpeting. It's basically a massive glitch that completely wrecks the user experience of the average Nigerian voter, and we really need to understand how it's functioning on the back end.
To do this properly, I'm pulling directly from some incredible peer-reviewed legal analyses. Specifically, some heavy-hitting doctrinal research from the Nnamdi Azikiwe University Journal of Law and Clinical Legal Education, along with the International Journal of Intellectual Discourse. We're essentially going to treat the 1999 Constitution like a piece of foundational source code. We're looking for the exact vulnerabilities and seeing exactly how political elites are systematically exploiting them.
So here's our UX roadmap for this explainer. First, we'll look at the cross-carpeting phenomenon itself. Second, exploiting constitutional loopholes. Third, the impact on democracy. Fourth, the economic costs of defection. Fifth, international perception. And finally, essential reforms for stability.
All right, Section 1. The cross-carpeting phenomenon, a historical bug in the system.
Taking a look at this timeline, you can really see how this glitch evolved. It first popped up way back in 1951 as this weird regional anomaly when members of the NCNC defected to the action group. That completely flipped the regional power dynamics. Then, fast forward to the start of the Fourth Republic in 1999. Because our parties didn't really have strong, distinct ideologies, these fluid loyalties basically became institutionalized. And that brings us to the massive legislative realignments between 2023 and 2026, like the 27 river state lawmakers who suddenly switched sides. So yeah, this is no longer just a rare, clever workaround. It is a highly institutionalized exploit.
Moving on to Section 2, Exploiting Constitutional Loopholes, Analyzing Section 68(1)G.
Now, the original designers of our Constitution actually tried to patch this exploit. They wrote Section 68(11)G, which explicitly says legislators have to vacate their seats if they defect from the party that sponsored them. Sounds solid, right? But they left a massive vulnerability in the code. It's the unless clause. You lose your seat unless the defection happens because of a division or a merger within the party. And here is the fatal error. The Constitution just leaves those two critical words, division and merger, completely undefined.
Just look at the crazy contrast here. On one hand, the intended design was clearly built to protect the voters' choices, to maintain the sanctity of the electoral mandate. But the actual user behavior, the exploit, shows politicians strategically manufacturing these fake internal crises. They just stage a division to bypass the firewall entirely, keep their seats, and completely overwrite the choice that voters made at the ballot box. It's wild.
And because the legal parameters of the word division are so blurry, our judiciary sometimes inadvertently acts as an accomplice. We just saw a perfect example of this when the Supreme Court upheld the seats of those 27 river state lawmakers. Because the Constitution doesn't strictly define what a party division actually is, the courts really struggle to enforce the vacation of seats. It's literally like having a state-of-the-art security system that just ignores intruders because nobody programmed it to recognize what a break-in looks like.
Okay, Section 3. The impact on democracy, the system crash.
When the fundamental interface between the voter and the representative gets severed by a defection, we start seeing cascading systemic failures. The research makes this super clear. The opposition gets hollowed out, political pluralism basically dies, and we tilt dangerously toward a de facto one-party state. Think about it. If you vote for a specific party's ideology, and your representative just takes that mandate and hands it to the ruling party to save their own political career, well, the whole electoral process becomes meaningless. This directly causes massive voter apathy and locks in a patronage-driven order instead of actual functional governance.
Which brings us to Section 4, Economic Costs of Defection, Diverting Resources from Users.
1.3 million. That is the exact number of Nigerians who emigrated between 2015 and 2022. They are actively fleeing a system where elite survival and endless political maneuvering are prioritized over basic public welfare and service delivery.
We all know this mass exodus as the Joppa syndrome. But as a researcher, I view this as the ultimate system rejection by the actual users, the citizens. When people see a structure that's just dominated by special-purpose political vehicles instead of genuine, working ideologies, it creates this widespread democratic hopelessness. Why stay in an environment where your input, your vote, doesn't translate into any predictable output? And just look at where the money goes when these realignments happen.
The intended destinations for state resources are obviously schools, hospitals, infrastructure. But when a defection happens, that capital gets aggressively redirected. It gets dumped right into patronage networks. The defecting politician basically drains public funds to buy their new standing with local power brokers. The resources literally get rerouted away from the users.
Moving to Section 5, Nigeria's international perception, flagged as an unreliable environment.
Check out this incredibly telling quote from the International Journal of Intellectual Discourse. They note that defection portrays Nigeria in a bad light, and that there is a strong tendency for the international community to be skeptical about our democracy. See, when foreign investors look at a political ecosystem that completely lacks ideological discipline, a place where power structures can literally shift overnight just because of personal ambition, they flag it. They perceive a highly unreliable, high-risk environment, and that absolutely tanks our trade relations and economic development.
Actually, it's super instructive to look at South Africa here. They beta tested a very similar floor-crossing feature in their own democracy back in the early 2000s, but you know what? They quickly realized it was a total disaster. It completely wrecked proportional representation and shattered voter trust because the actual math of who represented who just kept changing between elections, so they swiftly rolled the law back. Nigeria, on the other hand, we've just left this glitch running in the background for decades.
Finally, Section 6, Essential Reforms for Stability, Deploying the Patch.
So here is the three-step UI/UX solution to finally debug our democracy. Step 1, a constitutional amendment. We absolutely must hard-code the precise definitions of division and merger into Section 6811G. Politicians can no longer be allowed to manufacture fake crises just to jump ship. Step 2, we need to expand these anti-defection firewalls to include executive office holders. Right now, the law is completely silent on governors and presidents defecting, which is crazy. And step 3, we have to strengthen INEC. The Electoral Commission needs the power to strictly enforce transparent internal party primaries. That removes the initial grievance that usually triggers a defection in the first place.
So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. The entire architecture of our future depends on what we do next. Will Nigeria finally enforce the integrity of our democratic mandate and patch this code? Or are we going to just allow this opportunistic glitch to become a permanent, fatal feature that eventually crashes the entire system? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Take this information, understand the actual mechanics of your democracy, and let's keep pushing for an operating system that works for the users, not just the administrators.